I want to take a look at one later piece of writing from Luther that is perhaps a little bit more problematic, a little bit more concerning. The Towards the end of his life, he becomes rather notorious for attacks on non-Christians, specifically Jews. When he first starts his movement, he imagines that once he clears out all of the frustrations and all the confusions of the Catholic Church, everybody's going to admit that, well, now Christianity is perfect. I'm on board with that. And he imagined mass conversions from Jews, Muslims too. That didn't happen. And over time, he got a little frustrated with that. He got a little angry with that. And as he got older, prejudices start to settle in, and he became more openly hostile. So I want to take a look at this one piece of writing from a fairly long pamphlet that he wrote that has some very troubling aspects to it. And this is just one paragraph from it, but I think it captures the essence of what he's saying. This is from the piece of from the pamphlet on the Jews and their lies, from the year 1543. It's a 65,000 word treatise promoted during Nazism. They made great hay out of this. And it has been, in all fairness, denounced by Lutheran authorities ever since. And before that, too, honestly. The Nazis exhumed it from history in a rather shameful way, the way they did everything. But take a look at not just the what he's saying, which is pretty revolting, but the way he's saying it. I wish and I ask that our rulers who have Jewish subjects exercise sharp mercy towards these wretched people, as suggested above, to see whether this might not help, though it is doubtful. They must act like a good physician who, when gangrene has set in, proceeds without mercy to cut, saw, and burn flesh, veins, bone, and marrow. Such a procedure must also be followed in this instance. Burn down their synagogues, forbid all that I enumerated earlier, force them to work and deal harshly with them, as Moses did in the wilderness, slaying 3,000 lest the whole people perish. They surely do not know what they are doing. Moreover, as people possessed, they do not wish to know it, hear it, or learn it. Therefore, it would be wrong to be merciful and confirm them in their conduct. If this does not help, we must drive them out like mad dogs, so that we do not become partakers of their abominable blasphemy and all the other vices, and thus merit God's wrath and be damned with them. I have done my duty, now let everyone see to this. I am exonerated. That is horrific. But it's horrific with method in the madness. Look at the tricks he's using, and I'll use that word, in trying to communicate this. There is obviously a sense of populism. He is once again addressing a wide audience in German and alluding to rulers, but rallying the common folk around him. Populism, to contextualize how people understand what he's saying. He says, though it is doubtful. He qualifies something as a people possessed, always shading how the other group is acting or speaking on their own behalf, always qualifying it and putting it at some suspicious distance from the readers. He exercises dehumanization through simile and othering. He talks about as people possessed. He talks about them like mad dogs. The use of simile, a poetic device, is also a way of distancing himself from some responsibility, plausible deniability, if you will. When he writes, they must act like a good physician who, when gangrene has set in, he's just spinning a tale there. He's just talking hypothetically and reaching for a figure of speech. He wouldn't certainly go out and tell anybody to cut, saw, and burn flesh. Literally, if somebody were to do that, well, that wouldn't be on Mr. Luther at all. That is just awful. He misappropriates the tradition of ad fontes when he says, burn down their synagogues as Moses did in the wilderness. He is supposing what Moses would do to today's Jews, or the Jews of the 16th century. And suggesting that, well, okay, an authority like Moses agrees with me. Well, that's probably subject to severe individual interpretation, so pointing to that as a source is questionable. And when you cite a source like that, you have to figure the common folk that you're addressing probably aren't going to run for the book to look it up and check your citation. They're just going to say, oh, Moses said that. Oh, okay, yeah. Very, very dangerous stuff there, and deeply unfair to sources who come before you that you are suddenly bastardizing. Look at also how he works with parallelism to create some contrasts. He says, we must drive them out like mad dogs so that we do not become partakers in their abominable blasphemy. He's setting up an us and them, a binary. We're the good ones, they're the bad ones. Us and them. The contrast, the binary, is a standard of populist rhetoric, quite frankly. We're okay. It's those people who are the problem. It's good and evil. It is that black and white way of seeing the world. The Manichaean tradition, like Augustine dealt with. Within that, however, also you see the attitude that comes out that is being mainlined into the general populace. A populace that is almost always going to be more susceptible to prejudice, to biases, to racial stereotyping of all kinds. It is a clear invitation to mob action when he says, now let everyone see to this. That is a calling out to bad actors, quite frankly. Now let everyone see to this. See to what? See to the burning of synagogues. See to the slaughter of these people, out of this resentment, supposedly, that he feels for them not converting to his version of Christianity. All of this paints him as, well, our term for it in the modern day would be demagogue, who is a political leader who seeks support by appealing to the worst aspects of a society, appealing to the desires and prejudices of ordinary people rather than using a rational argument. He is ginning up their anger. He is feeding their resentment and their instinct for violence. He is speaking emotionally to them under the guise of making a rational argument. The rational argument is the cornerstone of humanism. The rational argument is the cornerstone of the Renaissance. The ability to think things through, to use your mind, your gift of reason that makes you kind of on a similar level with God himself. But speaking emotionally instead appeals to the generally the most animalistic, the least evolved, most bestial instincts of humanity. And so, while again you can say what you want about his spiritual beliefs, about his doctrine itself, his embrace of Christianity, within the way he says what he says, within the way he communicates his doctrine, there are aspects which are absolutely, undeniably demagoguery.